Today, I want us to look at the levels of organization for multicellular organisms. What I mean by this is how do we go from just a basic animal cell with all the organelles inside, like we've been talking about, to creating a multicellular organism like a human? One thing you need to understand is that the animal cell we've been studying is just really an example of sort of a quote unquote typical animal cell. Basically, it's like a human's skin cell. The reality is, the cells that make up our bodies come in many different shapes, sizes, and varieties that have different numbers of the various organelles to help them function properly. This slide shows just four of the possible cell types you'll see in multicellular organisms. There are nerve cells, red blood cells, muscle cells, and epithelial cells. And if you look at all of these, they all have a unique shape, and they're also all going to have unique functions that help the overall organism survive. None of these individual cells that you see here are able to survive on their own like an amoeba or euglena can. They're dependent on being part of a larger organism. Cells get organized into groups of very similar cells that carry out the same function, and the next few slides are going to look at a few of these. There are four different tissue types that make up the human body. One is nervous tissue. Nerves are responsible for carrying electrical signals that control the body. The electrical signals are passed from one nerve to the neck like a long chain reaction, allowing signals to travel from our brain to the rest of the body and from information our senses like touch and sight gather to travel back to our brain. Another type of tissue is muscle tissue. Muscle tissue controls what moves the body or moves materials through the body. The most common type of muscle we usually think about is what's called skeletal muscle, the kind that attaches to our bones and helps us move. But there are other types, like those muscles that make up our stomach and intestines and help move food through our body, and cardiac muscle, the muscle that makes up our heart and acts as a pump to help push the blood throughout our body. Our body also contains connective tissue, and connective tissue really does just what it sounds like it would do. It connects different parts of the body. One example of this includes fat, which is seen in the photograph just below the wording, cartilage, which is used to connect bones and cushion their movement, blood, and tendons. The picture at the right shows red blood cells at the top. The computer generated high definition image below shows red blood cells and white blood cells traveling through a blood vessel. While the blood vessel itself is not made of connective tissue, the blood itself is considered connective tissue, and it transports gases that are needed throughout the entire body. The last type of tissue is epithelial tissue. This tissue lines the hollow organs of our bodies, things like your stomach and your intestines, and it also covers the outside of your body. Your skin, it contains a lot of epithelial tissue. Now, in order to create an organ like the stomach that we see here, different kinds of tissues have to work together to carry out a specific job as the overall organ. And this requires three or more types of tissues to work together. In this example, the stomach digests protein and churns the food up. And this is done by using all four types of our tissues. Smooth muscle tissue helps the stomach move and allows the food to be pushed through the stomach. Epithelial tissue lines the inside of the stomach and secretes mucus to help protect it from being damaged by the acid and enzymes that are inside the stomach itself. Right, blood helps bring oxygen to the muscle tissues and the epithelial tissues so they're able to do their jobs. And then nerves take signals and information to the stomach, telling it how to work, how to contract, and how to release and produce the stomach acid. When organs work together to complete a task for the body, they create an organ system. For example, the digestive system. It includes the esophagus, the stomach, the small and large intestines, and the liver, as well as some other accessory organs that help the body digest food, absorb water, and absorb the nutrients that we need to survive. Multicellular organisms are made of billions of cells that make up the tissues, that make up the organs, that make up the organ systems. All the organ systems combined, like the skeletal, nervous, circulatory, respiratory, digestive, and muscular, help allow the multicellular organism to function, allowing it to carry out all of the different traits necessary for something to be considered a living thing. Remember that going from the level of the simplest structure to the most complex, we go from cell to tissue. Tissue make up organs. Organs make up the organ systems, and the organ systems make up the organism.